Did you know you can drive a car right to the shore of the Arctic Ocean? Yep, you can, and I'll show you how. The Arctic Ocean is a great place to take a dip and to watch the sun not go down all night.
There is your 1 o'clock sun.
And the journey to get there is beyond amazing. There are 4 countries where you can drive to the Arctic. They are Norway, the United States, yep, the US of A, Canada, and Russia. Now I've done the drive to Norway, the US, and Canada, and I'm going to focus on those. You might ask, what about Iceland? What about Greenland? Well, Iceland is an amazing place right on the Arctic Circle, an absolute must visit. But I really can't call that driving to the Arctic. Flying to Reykjavik, take a cab to the beach, you're in the Arctic. Greenland, same thing. Fly pretty much anywhere in Greenland, that's the Arctic. I want to talk about the amazing drive to the Arctic and how you can do it from anywhere in continental North America or Europe. So that's 4 countries, and I'm going to tell you about 3. Technically, there's only 2 because in the 3rd country, you'll be stopped about 3 miles before the beach and turned around, so I'll tell you what you can do about that. And one of those 2 is really exciting for me because it's brand new. A brand new road that just opened up a few years ago, and is the first all-season road all the way to the shore of the Arctic Ocean in North America. It's an experience you cannot miss. So let's do this. And I'll begin with Norway. Norway. Easily the easiest way to get there, all paved roads, any car will do, towns, cities, restaurants, hotels, you can get your ice cream, is Norway. Norway is beautiful. I mean beautiful plus, and you want at least a month there if you want to do the whole thing and do it right. Beautiful mountains, fjords, waterfalls, scenic overviews, crazy bridges, really long tunnels, snowbanks bigger than I've ever seen, and where beautiful summer and winter alternate every 50 miles. I'll have a video covering all of Norway. Here, I want to tell you about the Arctic. You cross the Arctic Circle in the coolest spot, high on a mountain range, incredible views. Polar Circle End, where Norway touches the Arctic. The first thing you absolutely have to see is the Lofton Island. Do not miss it. You are standing on mountaintops breaking out of the water, countless islands connected by bridges. I personally thought the town of was cool, the only 1-letter town I've ever been to. Romberg Beach is amazing. And not too far was a nice quiet spot where we camped and watched the sun not go down all night. It's a phenomenal experience.
There is your 1 o'clock sun.
But remember, don't look directly at the sun. It will burn a hole in your eye if you do, but you'll know it's there. And it's amazing. What's this campground, you ask? Well, it isn't. And this for me is one of the best things about Norway. In Norway, you can camp anywhere, at least 150 meters from anyone's house and not on any crops. So pick a place away from everyone and have an awesome time. We camped near waterfalls, on shorelines, beaches, and once we could even see Russia from our tent. No polar bears in mainland Europe, that's really important to remember. If camping is not your thing, there are lots of cities and hotels all above the Arctic, for example in Tromsø and Alta. And you can take a dip in the Arctic not just at one spot, but at hundreds of different spots. This is us at another location on the Lofton Islands watching the sun not go down and taking a midnight swim in the Arctic as well. Along the road you'll go through many tunnels, and I mean long ones. This one is 25 kilometers long.
It's another tunnel that goes under the Arctic Ocean.
And lots of ferries across the fjords. The big attraction most people go to at the top of Norway is Nordkapp, the location of a lighthouse on a high cliff at the very top of Norway, almost. There's a visitor center, touristy things, and a nice view of the Arctic from high up. But what most people don't know though is that one peninsula over goes 1 mile further north than even Nordkapp. No visitor centers over there though, just a pure beautiful hike over the tundra 9 kilometers each way. This is us at the northernmost point in Europe, excluding islands.
Europe's northernmost point!
Putting aside the fact that a very narrow channel makes this an island too. That was an adventurous hike. A thick fog bank moved in and made it impossible to see the next cairn, and it was hard to pick up the trail. Bring a GPS and mark the location of the parking lot. So be careful of the weather. One day it's warm and sunny, warm-ish. The next day it's sleet and fog. I mentioned there were islands further north, and most people don't get there, but you've got to go. I know this is not driving anymore, but you've got to make the trip to Svalbard. Svalbard or Spitsbergen, the furthest north you can go by commercial airline, catch a plane in Tromsø like us, or Oslo. 78 degrees north latitude, way, way up there. The town of Longyearbyen has 3 months of 24-hour sun in the summer and 3 months of no sun at all in the winter. Amazing town, but watch out for polar bears. There are lots of polar bears that wander into town. Do not camp out here unless you have a tripwire system around your camp to detect an incoming polar bear and a rifle and be ready to use it. We were pretty happy staying in a hotel. The midnight sun was real high in the sky. Even at solar midnight, the sun was as high as it is at noon in the summer in July. And of course, we took a couple of dips in the Arctic. It's not too often you get to swim with a walrus. That's the Arctic for you. From there, we took an icebreaker up to the ghost town of Pyramiden. Pyramiden has an interesting history. It was founded in 1910 by Swedish miners, later sold to the Soviet Union, and now is a part of Norway with joint cooperation with Russia. Now it's a ghost town, abandoned in the 1990s in a hurry, and in the state of suspended animation today. You can tour the whole place with an armed guard for protection. This is the northernmost point I have ever been to, over 79 degrees north latitude. Svalbard, like the rest of Arctic Norway, is gorgeous. Alaska. Next is Alaska. Most Americans that drive to the Arctic today go this route. This is the one you might have had in mind. Now, Alaska is great, been there many times. Mountains, glaciers, black bears, grizzly bears. Alaska is an amazing road trip. But the thing is almost everyone stays in the southern half of the state and misses the Arctic altogether. But the Arctic is the most amazing and adventurous place, and in this video, I'm going to take you there. The route is simple enough: up the Alaska Highway from Dawson City, up Highway 2 through Fairbanks, and onto the Dalton Highway for 2 solid days of wilderness driving. Once you're at the Dalton, it's 414 miles of wilderness and mostly dirt road. It can be potholed and sludgy if it rains, so a 4x4 is recommended. So this is not a drive for everyone. Bring at least 2 spare tires, extra water, tools, the whole shebang. This is no Norway anymore. But there is no highway like it anywhere in the US. Mountains, nature, wildlife. The road is there because of the oil pipeline that goes from the North Shore down to Valdez, and they track each other all the way. Whatever you think about pipelines, it's incredible to see how long this pipeline goes, pretty much all above ground so it doesn't freeze in the permafrost. Now all of this is public land along the road, so you can camp anywhere you like. Find a spot off the road, and take it all in, or use one of the BLM campgrounds along the way.
We're just north of the Arctic Circle. The sun's just about to pop up those trees in a few minutes.
After 115 miles, you arrive at the Arctic Circle waypoint. Nice parking area, little sign. From this point forward, you are entering the land of the 24-hour sun. At the Arctic Circle, the 24-hour sun happens only on the summer solstice, usually June 21st, and the further north you go, the more nights of sun you get. At the North Pole, it maxes out at 6 months.
I'm standing at the Arctic Circle. Some people think that the sun doesn't set north of the Arctic Circle, but that's not exactly true. The sun doesn't set on the Arctic Circle only on the summer solstice. As you go further north, you get more 24-hour sun until you get 6 months of sun at the North Pole.
Now, if you are thinking about stopping here on June 21st to watch the sun not go down, don't. Keep going. To the north in the distance is the Brooks Range, the tallest mountain range on the drive, and it will block your view. Your one and only gas stop before you reach the top is at Coldfoot Camp, mile 174. It was here that the coldest temperature in the US was recorded at negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit. A little store and restaurant, and it's worth calling ahead. Sometimes they are short on gas and will have limits on what you can buy, and you'll need a full tank to get to the top. Carrying some extra gas if you can is a good idea. The Marion Creek Campground just north of Coldfoot and at the foot of the Brooks Range is not a bad place to spend the night. No 24-hour sun though, you're in the shadow of the mountains. It is near here, just to the west of the road, you'll find Gates of the Arctic National Park. one of the least visited national parks in the US. You may have read that you need to charter a plane to get there, but that's not true. You can walk right in from this part of the road, but have very good hiking boots. You'll be walking through tundra and marsh, and it is tricky going, but ever so amazing a place. The pass over the Brooks Range is called Adigan Pass, and it's an adventure. We've done it in a dense fog, in a snowstorm, and with perfectly blue skies. You never know what you're gonna get. One year it was 75 degrees, another year the same time of year it was 30 degrees. This is where you really appreciate a four-wheel drive. As you drive through the pass, notice how much damage the guardrails have from the various avalanches that occur here. The most recent time we came through, it snowed and it was spectacular. On the other side of the pass, that's the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. It's massive and this is just the edge. Once clear of the mountains, it's pretty flat, but this is the immense northern slope, tundra, no more trees. Just a lot of wildlife. Here's us camping on a little side road only a few miles from the Arctic Ocean when a herd of caribou decided to pass right through our camp. Expect to see grizzly bears. Now the road is here for a reason, and that reason is that there is a lot of oil drilling right along the Arctic coast. And that brings up the big flaw with driving to the Arctic Ocean through Alaska. The drive is amazing, but just 3 miles short of the ocean in the town of Deadhorse, you'll come to a gate, and you'll be turned around. Yes, it does suck, but all is not lost. You have to get on a bus and take the oil fields tour to get to the ocean. And the tour, well, it's just a bus ride to the shoreline and back.
To the Arctic Ocean.
And you'll have all of about 5 minutes to jump in the ocean if you so choose. I've done it on a nice sunny day, in the rain, and in a snow blizzard. I've done it when the water was wide open, and when you had to push the ice out of the way to get in.
Come on, come with me.
And it's amazing. Not cheap and way too short, but you're in the ocean. Deadhorse is a town of about 1,300 people, all oil workers and support staff. But you can get a hot meal at the restaurant, and if you really have to, a hotel to stay in. This is one of the main hotels. Probably not what you had in mind, but on the other hand, it's extremely expensive. We had to stay there once when the temperature fell to below freezing, but if the weather is right, there is nothing like camping on the open tundra. Canada. Last but not least, Canada. The Canadian route has one big thing, that the Alaskan route does not have. A road right to the shore of the Arctic Ocean. And it's brand new, built just a few years ago in 2017. It's now open to the public so you can explore. It allows you to camp on the shoreline of the Arctic Ocean in North America for the very first time. And I'll take you up there. When you think about Canada, you might think of the Rocky Mountains, Banff, Whistler, stuff like that. But northern Canada, I mean way northern Canada, is spectacular. Imagine driving by something like Niagara Falls over and over and over again on a route with almost no tourists. I'll show it in another video, not to be missed. Right now, my focus of attention is the Dempster Highway. It's a 460-mile, 740-kilometer journey of epic proportion. The highway begins in Dawson City, Yukon. Dawson City was the centerpiece of the gold rush, where all those people climbing over the mountain passes were going, and I had the chance to experience panning for gold like tens of thousands of people did back in the late 19th century. The buildings there are decorative, a real old western town like those located much further south. The city is mentioned in multiple novels featuring stories of Arctic survival and travel. Don't forget to get gas while you're there, because once you get on the highway, you'll find nothing but endless epic wilderness. On both sides of the road, you'll find hundreds of miles of tundra, tall mountains, and overall an incredibly beautiful environment. I've done the road quite a few times, and there's always a new surprise. Fields of red and pink flowers glowing in the sun, a grizzly bear blocking the road. The last time I traveled on the Dempster Highway, I saw something very unusual. 2 stunning tornadoes in the distance, further north than any I've ever seen and any on the official record. That was so unusual. Along the road, there's occasional river crossings that are far more interesting than your standard bridge overpass.
This is the Mackenzie River, one of the biggest and longest rivers in North America. It's too expensive for them to build a bridge, so they actually run car ferries across here. At least in the summertime. And in the wintertime, they drive across the ice.
There are also numerous campgrounds along the road to allow for sleeping through the not-so-dark nights. You've got to camp for the full experience, but as an alternative, there are a couple of small motels along the entire route. One of those is located at mile 230, kilometer 370, featuring a restaurant and gas station along with a hotel, all overlooking the incredible tundra and wilderness. The other 750 kilometers up in Inuvik, the former end of the road. And at mile 252, kilometer 405, you'll cross into the Arctic Circle where you'll experience the 24-hour sun on June 21st and 24 hours of darkness filled with the glow of the northern lights on December 21st. Though I don't recommend you driving the Dempster Highway in the wintertime due to the extreme cold and darkness and the dangerous driving conditions those cause. Before you get to the Arctic Ocean, you arrive in a town called Inuvik. It includes a few campgrounds, hotels, and a church that looks like an igloo. Inuvik used to be the end of the road going north, at least in the summertime. In the wintertime, they built ice roads between many towns throughout the Arctic Northwest Territories. But the first ever all-season road in North America, making it all the way to the Arctic Ocean from the rest of the continent, opened just 5 years ago in November 2017. This stunning 87-mile, 140-kilometer road is called the Inuvik-Tuktoyaktuk Highway, starting at the north end of Inuvik.
This is Tuktoyaktuk. It's right on the Arctic Ocean. They built a road here a couple years ago, and before that there was no road here. So for the first time ever, you can actually drive to the Arctic Ocean.
You'll find endless flower fields throughout lots of hills that were created in a way you might not expect. These uniquely formed hills are called pingos, and the city of Tuktoyaktuk, located on the Arctic Ocean, calls itself the land of the pingos.
That's a pingo. It looks like a hill. It is a hill. But what made it is what's cool about it. The water underneath the hill froze into ice, and the ice pushed the hill up.
I arrived in Tuktoyaktuk on a day of a community get-together at the Pingo National Landmark nearby. I was able to meet and get to know some locals who showed me their way of life, and it was incredible, like nothing I've ever seen before. Their main source of protein is called muktuk, and it comes from whale skin and blubber, which they would hunt for during the summer months and ration it until the next year. They would also collect berries from nearby areas during those same summer months. This has been the case for thousands of years. Historically, the Inuit up here lived in igloos, similar to the one I made in Antarctica, a video you should check out after this one. But that hasn't been the case in over 100 years. Tuktoyaktuk has all the amenities you expect to find in a small town. A couple supermarkets, but oh my gosh, is it expensive. And it's cold. It's even cold in the summers. 60 degrees is a pretty nice day. It falls below -20 and stays below -20 degrees for 7 months a year. Warm clothing is a must.
In the wintertime, it's super cold, so they have extra gear to keep themselves warm. This is a traditional parka.
But during the summer months, the weather was warm enough and the sunlight was bright enough for people to comfortably hang out outside very late into the night, sometimes even as late as 4 or 5 in the morning.
I'm at the Arctic Ocean at 2 in the morning watching the sun not set all night long. It looks like it's gonna set, but it's actually going sideways.
During June and July, the sun would circle around the sky continuously, and my visit came at the very end of that 2-month time frame.
I'm here at a very special time. Tomorrow that sun is gonna set. Today is the last day of the 24-hour sun.
When I was last up there, we timed it right before the end of the 24-hour sun season, so we could see the sun come down, just hit the horizon, just scratch sideways along the ocean, and rise but without ever actually setting. It was amazing. By far the best way to sleep in Tuktoyaktuk is to set up camp at one of the 10 campsites on the shoreline of the Arctic Ocean. You'll get a panoramic view of the Arctic Ocean right from your tent. It's an amazing experience. In Tuktoyaktuk, again, you gotta camp, but if that's not your thing, there are a few B&Bs within walking distance of the Arctic Ocean. Then again, everything in Tuktoyaktuk is within walking distance of the Arctic Ocean. For entertainment, they have things like electronics, TVs, playgrounds, cards, bikes, and so on. But one thing they have that my body doesn't like very much is the freezing cold Arctic Ocean. And the experience wouldn't be complete without jumping in.
In the Arctic Ocean, dude! Matthew's friends are already in the Arctic Ocean.
It's difficult to find a place in the world where the Arctic Ocean is comfortable for swimming, but here we found it. But as it turns out, the Arctic Ocean water at Tuktoyaktuk was the warmest of any location I've jumped in at anywhere above the Arctic Circle, and warmer than both of my polar plunges in Antarctica. And one of those plunges was in an active volcano with a beach so hot it would burn your feet. I was able to stay in the water for several minutes as opposed to 10 seconds or less everywhere else. So that's Tuktoyaktuk for you. And that's 3 ways you can drive to the Arctic Ocean, one of them being brand new, all 3 being super epic. I would like to thank my parents for showing me the awesomeness that is the Arctic, and I would like to thank you all for your support.
Matthew, you need to grow some thicker skin.